Gasolene is proudly brought to you by Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts, and the following sponsors. Welcome back to Gasoline, viewers. We all hear about these car collections hidden away in people's sheds all around the country. Well, guess what? We've found one for you. And this is a very interesting one too. So let's go behind this door here and talk to the owner all about his machines. Well, here we are, and I've got to say it looks like a fantastic collection. Good variation of cars too. We're with Brian, the owner of this collection. How long have you been into cars for, mate?
About 25 years. I've been into the American cars, and I just can't get enough of them.
And you're not biased either. I see you don't mind different brands, makes and models.
I like most American cars, probably mid-60s to mid-70s.
Great era, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
I also hear that you do a fair bit of your own restoration work with these cars too.
Yeah, I try to do all aspects of the restoration. I try to outsource nothing if I can.
Well, it's good to see someone that has a go. Let's get down to it and check out some of these vehicles.
Here, come on, Glenn, let's have a look.
Thanks, mate.
Okay, this is my 71 Plymouth Duster. It's got a 360 4-speed manual. I bought the car out of Texas. Shipped it out from the US about 6 years ago and restored the car from front to back, and it's one of my favourite drivers. This was a nice original unrestored car. It was supposed to be a little old lady's car. It was a 318 3-speed manual, and just had the paint washed off the top surfaces, just a nice honest car to start with. And I basically stripped it back, and I had an engine a mate of mine built that had a pretty strong 400 plus 360 V8. And I just basically put it together with 3.7 rear end, and it's a real nice torquey car to drive on the road. It's good fun. The basic Duster you could buy was 6-cylinder models and the standard V8 models, and you could have the performance version, which was a 340 Duster, or you could get a Duster Twister, and they all came in different colours or different the way they were striped, different bonnet scoops, depends on how you wanted to order them. There's quite a few variations in the basic Duster you could have. This 68 Roadrunner of mine I bought out of the US in Texas, and when I got the car, the fellow I bought off had a falling out with the panel shop, and basically the car looked shiny, but when I finally got the car home there was only about 4 or 5 screws holding all the front of the car on, so Basically had to put all the car back together again, and then I had a drivetrain in mind for it, which was an Indy-headed 440, 727, 3.5 posi rear, and it's making about 400 horsepower at the back wheels, and it's one of my most favourite cars to drive. We took it out to the Mopar Nationals December just gone, and ran at 12.5, 110 mile an hour with minimum traction, so I was very happy with that. Nice torquey car to drive on the street.
And don't forget, viewers, to look up the all-new Shannons Club. Shannons Club is a huge site. It's like a hub for enthusiasts. You jump on there, you can start your own garage, put pictures of your cars up there, stories of your cars, videos, you name it. You'll see people like myself on there, Jim Richards. Click on our garages and check out some of our machines and some of our past machines. It's an incredible site, it's growing every day, so get onto it and have a ball.
Okay, this is my 71 RT 440 4-speed Dodge Charger. This is one of 332 cars produced. It's a car that I've had for about 14 years. I restored it about 12 years ago. When I bought the car, it was missing all the hard to find parts, all the air grabber assembly, the correct gearbox, the pistol grip floor shift. All those parts are missing, and back when I was building the cars, a lot of that stuff wasn't available reproduction, so I spent quite a long time looking for all the parts needed. The car was stripped back, repainted, basically reconditioned. It's got a mild 440 in it. I first heard about this car for sale through friends of mine in the Mopar circle who told me he was sitting in someone's front yard out in Rowville. Basically chased up that lead and bought it off the guy who hadn't done anything with the car. He was basically into Australian Chryslers. Not knowing at the time, I knew it was an original RT, but I didn't realise it was such a low production car, so it was a real good find. When I first bought the car, that car was actually red. The car was originally rally red, but I saw an article in an American magazine of this green with the matching bumpers, and as soon as I saw it, I thought that's how it's got to be. But when I first saw the car, it had a flame job down the front with Laker pipes under the doors, 4 exhausts at the back, and a boot spoiler that was about a foot off the boot. So it looked like a real sight when I first saw it. Another interesting feature on these cars is the air grabber, which is called a ram charger hood on these. Only Chrysler had that style air scoop that actually functioned and opened to the outside. No other make except Chrysler or Plymouth had it. It's quite a cool thing to do at the lights to intimidate the Chevy boys. Flick the switch and up comes a bonnet scoop. It's pretty good. 71 RTs came out base with a 444 barrel. They could be optioned with 446 pack or 426 Hemi. This one's a 4-barrel, 4-speed manual car. All came standard with Dana 60 rear ends. This one's got a 355 posi rear. New process 4-speed manual, pistol grip 4-speed. I've done some upgrading on the engine. It's got an RPM performer intake, Holley carburetor, hooker headers, and it's got lots of torque. It's a nice edgy car to drive on the street with a 4-speed manual. Okay, this is my 78 Mark V Lincoln Continental. It's a Diamond Jubilee edition. They only made 5,000 of these cars, quite a rare car in Australia. I bought the car out of Kentucky in the US and shipped the car out. It was just a nice original car with rundown paint, 50,000 original miles, a really nice original car to start with. I basically stripped the car back here and repainted it. That's all that's been done. Mechanically, hasn't been touched. These came with a 460, C6, they have climate control, cruise control, power steering, power windows, power seats, every option you can think of, they're in it. So if ever want to go for a drive and a nice comfortable car, this is the one I always drive first. With this particular Lincoln, it was made to celebrate 75 years of Ford in America, and they put a little diamond in the side glass window here, which was unique only to the Diamond Jubilee. So it's pretty cool. Another little thing they did when you purchased the car new in 1978, if it was a Diamond Jubilee, you could ask for them to put your initials on the door on the outside here. Okay, this is my 1970 Plymouth Superbird. I bought this car in Albury at the Chrysler show they have there in March a couple of years ago. It had been basically put together, just needed a good detail and a repaint and going over to make the car look the way it is today. I didn't have to do a lot of work on this car. It's painted in Petty Blue, which was nicknamed after the race car driver Richard Petty. All his cars were this colour when he raced. In NASCAR in 1970, these were the first cars to go over 200 miles an hour. So because of that, they actually changed the rules of NASCAR so that they couldn't be dominant like they were in that year. I've had the car for about 3 years now, and it's a good fun car to take out and drive. I like pulling up beside the boys with the Subarus, and they reckon they've got a big wing on the boot, but not compared to mine, they haven't. The reason the cars look like the way they do is basically they took a standard Roadrunner, put it in a wind tunnel and made the alterations to make the car slippery, made it coefficient through the air so they can make them fast at NASCAR. They put these simulated bulges that people think are there for brakes, but they're actually for tyre clearance on the racetrack. And obviously the big wing on the back was to hold the back of the car down on the track. Even the chrome trims on the A-pillars that screw on here were put on. They reckon it gave them 2 or 3 mile an hour advantage. Okay, these cars were quite hard to sell back in the day when they were new. Some of them sat in the dealership lot for 3 years because everyone thought they were quite, not everyone, but they thought they were quite ugly. They often took the front panels off and put the standard front back on the Roadrunner to make them easier to sell. When they actually made these cars, even though the car's made by Plymouth, they put Dodge front sheet metal on the car and then modified that sheet metal to blend in with the nose panel of the car to make them work in the tunnel. The rear wings on these cars are actually cast aluminium. They're a lot stronger than what people think. Actual fact, back in the day when they were new, they used to quite advertise with girls actually hanging off them, not that I'd recommend that. Inside the boot there's a whole lot of reinforcing structure inside the boot to support the wing. So they're actually a functioning unit. The street version of these cars also had the same back window as the race version. They actually put a plug in here to fill in to change the shape of the back window, and they always ran a vinyl top because it's impossible to put a plug in, paint the car and expect there not to be cracks and stuff that reform later. So they hid them with a vinyl roof. This car is a 444 barrel version, floor shift automatic, just your basic standard Roadrunner Superbird. These cars were also available, the 426 Hemi engine. Very, very expensive car today, very desirable. Okay, this is my 78 Pontiac Trans-Am. It's a car that was always on my list. I was at the right age as a kid when Smokey and the Bandit came out, and I made sure that I was always going to get one of these cars. When I bought this car, I bought it off a local importer here in Melbourne, and the car was nice and original but run down in the paint, but a nice straight rust-free car. So basically the car was repainted, all new decals, basically a few minor repairs in the interior to make the car look as it is now. The only other thing I did do was I upgraded the engine, because originally, if it was a Californian car, they had a 403 Oldsmobile engine or they had a Pontiac 400 motor. Either way, they were a little bit lazy, so I put a 455 Buick engine in this car, and it's got 500 foot-pounds of torque, and it's a lot of fun to drive on the street. Very torquey, very smooth, just lots of fun to drive. So when I'm in that sort of mood, this is the car I grab. This is my 71 Plymouth Roadrunner. I bought this on holiday with my family in 2005 out of Everitt in Sun Valley in California, a place called Memory Lane. We're sitting out of the front of their yard, suiting restoration. Just a nice original car that was run down in the paint and trim, mechanical. It runs a 444 barrel, 323 posi, 727 transmission. Just a nice, original, tight, very nice, smooth car to drive. Good power. It's actually my wife's car. The 71 Roadrunner was available with a reflective strobe stripe across the roof, which this car has, which has the Roadrunner symbol down the bottom, which Plymouth paid Warner Brothers quite a bit of money to have on all their Plymouth cars, their Roadrunners only. Also has a matching horn under the hood, which sounds like the Roadrunner also, which has a little decal on saying Voice of Roadrunner. It's pretty cool. They're also painted purple, all those horns. Okay, this is my 1970 Dodge Challenger convertible. It's an original 383 HP 4-barrel, 4-speed, 3.5 posi rear end. It's a non-RT car. Only made 31 in that configuration. I bought the car in central Victoria. The car was completely disassembled. It was an absolute basket case. And I spent 12 months piecing the car back together, repainting it, retrimming it into the condition it's in now. Okay, just about to power the top up. Don't have to worry about getting out of the car on these cars. Just hit a button and away we go.
Well, Brian, thanks very much for the tour of your shed here, mate. There's some great cars. I'm very envious of you. The problem is I can't choose which one I want to take home.
No, it's been great having you, Glenn. It's been good fun. There's nothing wrong with talking about cars all day. I could do it forever.
Well, thanks very much, mate. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you out at the occasional car show.
Yeah, I will. I'm sure I'll bump into you.
Thanks you very much.
Good on you,
mate. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, here we are back at Rocket Industries once again, so let's go inside and take a look around. Now, most engines in standard configuration can take a little bit more power with some upgrades, but if you want to get serious with it, you've really got to upgrade your engine internals. And the most common upgrades would have to be conrod and piston configuration. Now, with a conrod, like this one here, It's called what we call a H-beam conrod. It's quite strong. Down the actual beams here you can see this H-type configuration. You can run either an I-beam, which are fairly light, and they'll support up to around about 450 horsepower in most small block V8 configurations. A H-beam can support anything up to 1,000 horsepower for most applications, depending on the type of rod you use. It's also very important to make sure that you do run a very good conrod bolt in the main caps here. Because at the end of the day, if that stretches at say 7,000 or 8,000 RPM, you're going to be in all sorts of trouble and the engine will be in a lot of pieces all over the road. Now the other important component that is actually connected to that conrod is the piston. Pistons cop a hell of a lot of load. Imagine all that combustion pressure. You've virtually got an explosion happening on the top of this unit every time that ignition or that spark plug fires. So you've got all that downwards force acting upon this piston here. And the more power you make, the harder it gets. Also, when you're running a lot of compression, say in a race engine or something like that, and say you've got a bit of a bad batch of fuel, there's always potential for detonation. If detonation occurs, you can actually damage the piston like you wouldn't believe and punch a hole straight through it. A forged piston, like this one here, is very, very durable. It can actually withstand quite a bit of punishment, and this is why you need to upgrade to a forged piston in a racing or high-performance application. Now I'm sure most of you enthusiasts already know that the conrod and piston assembly connect to the crankshaft. The crankshaft is a very important factor in a high performance application. But if you want to make some serious power and torque, probably one of the most popular ways to go is to increase capacity. Make the engine bigger internally. And you do that with one of these, a stroker kit. This kit here actually takes a 302 Windsor up to 347 cubic inches. That's nearly 50 extra cubes. Now some of you may wonder, how do they increase capacity with a different crankshaft? Well, it's called a stroker for a reason, because they increase the stroke. They increase the amount of travel that the piston moves up and down in the cylinder bore by increasing the distance between the centerline of the crankshaft and the actual journal. It's actually increasing the leverage point on the crankshaft also. It's not uncommon these days to see a small block engine actually taken up to beyond 400 plus cubic inches. And you wouldn't believe how much difference that makes to engine torque and overall power production. For your free copy of the Rocket Industries and Aeroflow Performance Products catalogues, go to the Gasolene website and click on the link. With over 650 combined pages of performance parts and accessories, you're sure to find everything you need for your car.
You're watching Gasolene.
How about we race the XY? Next week on Gasoline, we go to the Ford Nationals at Calder Park. If it's drag racing and tyre smoking action you like, then this is the one for you. And don't worry, Holden fans, they let a few GM products slip through the gate. Someone's got to keep those Ford guys honest. Make sure you tune into this one, you're going to love it. And remember viewers, if you want to see past Gasoline episodes, go to shannons.com.au. Click on the Gasoline link and enjoy. And remember, this is a whole new season of Gasoline with new episodes every Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m, Australia-wide. Gasoline is proudly brought to you by Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts, and the following sponsors.